Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille show. My name is Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on a Thursday. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. And the entire mission of this network is to bring our community, our communities together in approachable and positive fashion. We take a look at the news cycle. We take a look at trends that are happening in the world. We're cautious optimists at this business, and we relay what we see through these cameras and these microphones to you. And today, like many times on this show, many times on this network and the shows we host, I was absolutely moved by Barbara Lundgren. Barbara Lundgren is the fairy godmother. She is a wedding and event planner. She's my friend. And today, whether or not you are a God-fearing person or not, she spoke from the heart, from what I saw and felt a higher power communicating to us. So we are going to take the back portion of Barbara's show and replay it today on this show. We're going to do that about 1:10 p.m. And if you're watching, I very much encourage you to tell a friend or a family member about what's about to transpire here. Because it's something we need to hear. We're all feeling some kind of vulnerability or anxiety, uncertainty, fear, frustration, anger. My faith has been questioned and challenged. I'm sure yours has as well. I don't know how many times I've said, why God are you doing this? This morning, listening to Barbara speak, it offered me the perspective that I needed to hear. We'll talk about that and we'll play it in the back portion of this program. Before we do, we're going to welcome two amazing people, and Anwar and Laura Allen. And they are hosting a virtual learning pod, much like Barbara Lundgren, who is stepping up for her family and serving as a facilitator for her grandkids in a virtual learning setting. The Allens are doing this as well, not only for their kids, but other children in the community. One of the super fantastic things, one of the few super fantastic things that has manifested or materialized in this COVID world is we're seeing character and integrity and people stepping up, despite, in Barbara's case, her income being eradicated. Despite, in Barbara's case, her having to reinvent herself. And I try on this show, and I'm going to get to some topics, I promise, and we'll get to the Allens, I promise. I try on this show to be this voice of positivity and hope, because I know it's so important now. And I understand we reach a heck of a lot of people. But through that positivity and hope, which I try to convey, and 95% of the time it's as genuine as it gets. I want you guys to know there are those times where I'm just like, what the heck is going on? You know? You may have seen that emotion come out on Keith Smith's show, Real Talk, which airs Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 a.m. on this network. And we were talking on 9/11 with a gentleman that was in New York City heading to the 9/11 memorial. And this gentleman lost his father in the World Trade Center terrorist attacks. His father was a window cleaner. And when the planes hit the Trade Center, he died. They never found his body. And this particular individual goes to the 9/11 memorial as his father's grave, his tomb, to honor his memory. And that got me thinking about my dad, who has real bad health. You're talking quadruple bypass, diabetes, early onset Parkinson's. And these are the folks that are the most vulnerable to COVID. So I haven't seen him since February, because my mom is fearful of his safety and his health. And when you have someone you care about, that's, 70 years old, 70, and he has all these things going on with his body. And when you saw him during a quadruple bypass surgery, and the doctors are talking about how close he was to dying, you can't help but think, will I get to see him again? Because anything can happen. So Barbara this morning spoke from the heart and showcased like the most authentic, vulnerability I think I have seen. We'll play that for you soon on the I Love CVille show. I very much encourage you to watch what's about to happen. And if you have someone in your life that you're worried about or that needs to hear this, you should let them know to listen to Barbara's message. Because I am 100% certain a higher power was speaking through Barbara today. A couple bits of news we need to get out first. Let's get the first headline on screen. There's been a COVID cluster outbreak at UVA. This is in one of the dormitories. This particular cluster, UVA figured it out through the water that was running in and out of the dormitories, the bathrooms, the showers. They've isolated the dormitory. It's the Balls-Dobie residence. Again, the wastewater and individual testing program tipped off the university on what was happening. The students are expected or being told to stay in their dorms and not leave their dorms unless they're going to use the restroom or to get the food that's going to be delivered outside their particular and respective dorms. So you have students at the University of Virginia. I went there, a fine university, who are supposed to be in the best 4 years of their lives. And I look back on my 4 years, and boy, did I have fun. And 188 of them are now confined to a room, and they can't leave unless they have to go use the restroom or pick up the meal that's being delivered outside their door. And that's 2020. all of us are getting stung by it. I think if you look back in retrospect on your 4 years of school, if you went to school on your 4 years of being 18 to 22, I don't know about you, but I didn't have to deal with that. University of Virginia is doing its best to contain this situation, and it may need to quarantine those that have been tested positive. They will quarantine those who've tested positive. The next headline on today's show comes from the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. And I got an update from my friend Gary Grant, who's a fantastic reporter. And he said, Wednesday last night, the 16th of September 2020, the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors voted 6-0 around 9:30 p.m. to extend their current COVID-19 Disaster Ordinance rules through November 18th. This extends the rules for another 63 days from today's date, effective immediately. This most likely will not help the local and independent business communities. He's exactly right. He's exactly right. The restrictions are very limiting in what you can and cannot do with your respective business. Like you, I'm torn on this. I'm a business owner and a libertarian, someone who's in favor of freedom of speech and free thought, someone who's opposed to having the government telling him what he can do with his personal residence, with his business, with his life. I think a phrase that best describes me is socially liberal, but fiscally conservative. I'm open-minded to people and what they're doing, in particular women who are the heroes of this planet. After seeing my boy come out of my wife after 37 hours of labor, and all I'm doing by her bed is holding her hand while she's doing all the work, turned me into a big softie, as you can see. Didn't used to be this way. So used to being in control in every aspect of my life, whether it's the business, calling the shots, playing sports, just used to being in control, and in that particular moment, had no control. That's why I think women are stronger than men could ever be. I couldn't have done that. Our next headline is going to come from the football coach at the University of Virginia. And he had a quote to the media that I need to relay to you guys. And I'm going to read it verbatim. And it's in regards to the Virginia Tech and UVA football game. The Virginia Tech and UVA football game, I don't know if you felt this way, but that game that was supposed to be played on Saturday on national television on ABC, it was certainly a bummer that we could not go to the game. It was in Blacksburg, so I was not going to be there in person. But that game on national television, on a sport that means so much to all of us in this town, across the country, I was so excited for it. My first job out of the UVA was as a sports writer at the newspaper working for Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. And I remember sitting in that press box covering UVA football and being like, man, I get paid to do this. This is awesome. And that game, which was, again, supposed to happen a couple days from now, Saturday, it was like hope for me personally that I was clinging to. I'm like, we're going to maybe go outside or, watch it with some friends outside or sit at Peloton Station outside on the patio and watch the game and have some cold drinks and eat some good food and enjoy some fellowship. And for maybe a ball game, we could think about something besides COVID-19. That's not going to happen, that game. Bronco Mendenhall says this about Virginia Tech. There's a difference between saying you want to play and showing you want to play. The protocols and the numbers really bear that out. I'm not saying we're not at risk at UVA or that it could not have happened to us, because the actions of a few can really skew the numbers and have a team affected so quickly. To this point, our team has shown diligence and the protocols, again, with 0 positive cases currently, and we've proven that it can be done. Bronco Mendenhall and the University of Virginia, guys, with its football team, has had 0 positive cases. Bronco Mendenhall, certainly a man of faith, has done a good job with his boys and his ball club of containing this thing. And I'm not pointing fingers, just talking facts. We know the game was postponed because a lot of players at Virginia Tech got COVID. And he's basically saying, look, not only are we talking, doing it the right way and being safe, but we're actually doing it and executing it. So instead of pointing fingers, I want to champion and put an individual on a pedestal. And the football coach here, Bronco, how you managed to get, I don't know, was it 90 players or so, probably another 30, 50 support staff, to have 0 COVID cases? Since what, July? And those cases in July, they came from home to school. So they didn't even originate at the university. So I bring this to your attention because this guy, who's the CEO of this football team, the leader of the team, is living it and breathing it, and he managed to get a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds. When I was 18 to 22, I couldn't see the forest through the trees. The only thing I cared about when I was 18 to 22 was pretty girls and cold beer and having fun. When I was 18 to 22, I know it. I would have been leading the charge of having parties and getting after it. And this guy, despite the mindset that many of his players share that's probably similar to mine, has figured out how to manage it. And not only manage it himself with his staff and his support staff, his coaches and his support staff, but 18 to 22-year-olds as well. So as a platform of hope and positivity, as someone who embodies cautious optimism, maybe we look down the road to Scott Stadium, to the McHugh Center, and we see a guy that not only is doing it with himself, his family, his support staff, his coaches, but 90-plus 18 to 22-year-olds. There's got to be a little hope there for us that we can at least grab onto. The next headline that I'd like to relay to you is one more on a cancellation that unfortunately I think we may see more of it. If you could get that on screen, about the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Charlotte 49ers, their football game was canceled. Charlotte, they can't put out an offensive line unit. Their offensive line was ravaged by this. They don't have enough O-linemen to play football, protect the quarterback. That game against UNC canceled. Probably expect more of this. And I don't know about you. I think as Americans and as people in general, we have a little, it's about me, it's about me, it's all about me. What is that, self-centered, I guess is what it's called? It's easy for us to be, down about a UVA Virginia Tech game not happening, wondering if the Commonwealth Clash is even going to happen in 2020. Maybe not. The only open date is December 12th. I think the odds would say we're probably not going to get to December 12th. I hope that's not the case, but look at what's happening. But I guess maybe we should think about these guys, these players. Most of them aren't going to play for a paycheck on Sundays. Most of these guys are playing for the love of the game, maybe for a little scholarship money, doing something that they enjoy doing. Can you imagine being a fourth year and this is your last year of eligibility? And you've been playing football your entire life, busting your tail in the weight room and the off season? I mean, working your tail off for the dream of running out of a tunnel and winning a ball game against your biggest rival, something that could live forever. I mean, take Ahmad Hawkins. Ahmad Hawkins is a friend of mine. Someone tell Ahmad Hawkins we're giving him some props here. Ahmad Hawkins, the ball hawk, he caught one of the most historic touchdowns in UVA history against Blacksburg. And to this day, he's still known for the catch. Part of his legacy. Marcus Hagans, Matt Schaub, Heath Miller, Alvin Pierman. Part of their legacy is what they did at Scott Stadium. And maybe those aren't the best examples because those gentlemen all enjoyed very nice paychecks for football. But for every Marcus Biscuit Hagans, there's an Andy Rippion. And you're going to say, who's that? Well, he was the backup punter in my fraternity house, backup punter at the UVA team, backup kicker. And I would watch this guy who was in my fraternity house, good friend, sacrifice Friday night parties, Thursday night going out with the boys. I'd watch him wake up at 4:30, 5 in the morning to kick footballs for the hope that if his number was called, the backup punter get a chance to kick a football 40 yards downfield with hopefully a 4-4, 5-second hang time. For the hope that if Connor Hughes, remember him, the redheaded kicker at UVA, that if he went down, Andy would have a shot to hit a game winner. Guess what? He didn't get a chance to play. He dressed, and that was a big deal to him, putting on that uniform, running out the tunnel, and being on the sidelines. So when we think about these games being canceled and how it's a kick in the gut, and it is a kick in the gut, take a moment and think about the Andy Rippions of the world, who for their entire elementary, middle school, and high school career, and then when they get to the University of Virginia in the dog days of August during two-a-days in training camp, are cramping and in pain and busting their tails for the chance to just dress and stand on the sidelines, not even get game time action. But you put your uniform on, you're at the sidelines, your parents are in the stands, and they see that number on your back. Think about those guys and gals with other sports that have busted their tail to this point and don't even get to wear the jersey on the sideline, let alone play. That's perspective. I'm going to reach out to Anwar and Laura Allen now, Judah. They are running a pod at their house. And I want to check in with them to kind of talk trials and tribulations and successes and challenges. They're real people. They're honest people. We have them on screen here. We got the fabulous Anwar on screen as well. What's up, guys? You guys are live. I mean, I guess before we go anywhere, who's this beautiful lady in the middle right here?
This is my grandmother who immigrated from Glasgow, Scotland, and it's Grandma's family recipe that she passed on to us.
Alan Scottish Shortbread. The recipe you created has made a lot of people very happy. How about the history of that recipe or some perspective on that recipe?
What's the history of the recipe?
What?
Yeah, he wants to know the history of the recipe.
Well, my mother just always liked to bake, and we all loved her shortbread, so she baked that the most.
There you go. There's the history.
Can you hear her, Jerry? Does she need to talk louder?
Maybe talk just a little bit louder. Laura and Anwar, you guys are coming in just fine. I would just love to take a moment to hear about your company and that recipe.
Well, Grandma just said that her mother used to make Scottish shortbread in Scotland, and her and her 12 other siblings liked it the best, so she made it the most. And that's the history of the Shortbread.
And you guys have made this a fantastic family business, grocery store shelves, just a killer brand here in Charlottesville that people love to support. How is the business going? We've touched based on this. How are you guys doing and maintaining and hanging with the business in COVID?
I think we're doing really, really well, actually. We just eclipsed our Christmas record, and it's September. So our business has been really thriving. Our biggest struggle is kind of funny, which is that we have an enormous amount of overstock from our time on QVC. And so we have a really tiny factory, and so we need to sell it so that we can get to baking all these orders and get ready for Christmas. So that's sort of where we're at, but those are all pretty spectacular problems to have.
Spectacular problems for sure. This is an amazing family, guys, an amazing family and their family business. Let's support it. Let's support it. Let's support it and show them some love. This gentleman here in Anwar is also like his wife, like grandma here, an amazing person. You guys are doing the selfless act of running a pod. And that is no easy task. How are we doing, guys?
Well, I think last time we talked, I don't think I even had a week under my belt. So I think at that point we were thinking through the ins and outs. So okay, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be running a business. We're at home still. Nothing's changed in terms of having to be quarantined. I don't even know what that means anymore. And I think the coolest thing about what we had to do was we had somewhat of a rubric, somewhat of a curriculum to follow. The way we're doing it is, and it's a little different for different families. We're doing classical conversation, and it's basically it's week by week. Every week you meet in a classroom setting, but it's a homeschool oriented type of system. So that means that my daughter, the other kids that are participating in the pods, they're doing work at home on their own. The crazy thing about it is that these kids are very used to this type of work, especially the kids that have been doing classical conversation or homeschooling. And even kids that are coming from private schools, they actually know how to be self-learners, self-starters, and it's actually really what it is. We're conversation starters, conversationalists. So we frame the topics, we frame the way in which we're studying the subjects. We're doing, we call them strands. So we're doing logic, which is math, doing Latin, which is like crazy for me. I didn't do Latin. I took Spanish. I took 2 years of Spanish, man. So in college and a couple more in high school. So it's like over my head. My daughter knows way more Latin than I do. And then we're doing research, like a science. We're doing a debate class, which is a geography class at this level. And then we'll do debate. So for me, it's been cool because there's been a lot of support. I think this community is something that we kind of walked into. We didn't have to start the whole thing up from scratch. And I guess that's my big thing for people that are getting into something like this. If you are on the fence, find something like a classical conversation or Acts Co-op, or there's so many different ones out there. And there's, I think you were talking about it last time, there are teachers that are starting up their own little companies, doing a little side hustle, maybe it's a business on their own. They know how to do it. So find someone who knows how to do what you're trying to do, which is teach your kid, complex subjects, and then just kind of have some faith, have a little entrepreneurship, do something scary. I honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into. So, I mean, it's good so far.
Can I throw this to you, Laura? The resiliency of children and how kids, if given the shot, will rise to any occasion. How are you seeing that topic?
Well, I'm so excited I can't get my words out to answer that question. Samaria, our oldest one, who is going by Aria now, so I'm trying to get used to that. She'll be 13 in
She's
November,
12 now.
and she wants to be called Aria. Anyway, she just knows that when it's done, you know, and so there's this very clear checklist of you have to do this math assignment and you have to do this science, etc., you know, for every subject. And so I went swimming this morning at like 6:30 till 7:30, and when I came back, she finished everything for science because that requires the internet. Now I need to go behind her and see how much of that is, you know, she might need a little extra TLC on some of it. But the fact that she's so motivated because she sees, like, she's very motivated to get school out of the way so she can play. And it just kind of, I was thinking about how much time is wasted in the classroom just to make the day go on, you know, just to keep the kids busy all day. I remember that being very frustrating for me as a young girl. My parents had, I grew up on the largest Arabian horse farm on the East Coast, up in New York, right on the border of Mass and Connecticut. Grandma had a Scottish Shortbread bakery on the farm, and anyway, I missed about 50 or 60 days of school every year to travel to horse shows, and in that solitude, I would learn everything I needed to learn for the year, and I would get so far ahead, and I really just remember loving that time of just isolated, like, time with my books versus when every single year of my life, and if I was in school, it'd probably be the same, I always had, like, disrupted in class, talked too much in class, because I would be around people and I'd want to talk to the people. I wouldn't want to sit there and learn stuff that so I'm seeing that pattern with Samaria, where she's actually really thriving academically. And I love I feel like she's more settled, so like she has to do what's it called, the watercolor painting for science every week. So she did lavender one week and some tropical fish. But the time she takes to sit and paint it so meticulously is like very peace-inducing to me. I just love to see her kind of get lost in the love of learning instead of, okay, get home, get your backpack ready, get your lunchbox ready, are we ready? You know, I'm enjoying this pace for her.
Great answer.
So that was a long
No, that was a fabulous answer.
I wanted to piggyback on that because I'm going to the Y. I'm actually taking my daughter to the Y with me, so that's our gym class, you know. And okay, we have a little visitor. And she has no like.
Oh, she's adorable.
She's
perfect.
And we're going to the Y, and say hi to Jerry. Say hi to Mr. Jerry.
Hey.
And so we're going to the Y, and they're doing pods there. And it's crazy to me. I'm going into the main gym, and they're all in there with their desks spread out and everything. And the craziest thing is that it's so normal to them. Like, I was asking Grandma the other day, we were talking about the war or something like that. She was talking about air raids. I'm like, air raids? She's like, yeah, there's shelters. They had to build shelters. She told a funny story about her dad that built a shelter in a basement with a bunch of water pipes. And so they would have been safe from bombing, but they might have drowned. And thank God nothing happened, right? And so it just is like, man, what has to happen for us in our generation for us to have a change? Like something like this is change. We hadn't seen anything like this. Like the way that we're changing up our commerce, the way that we're changing our they call it physical distancing now, like the way we greet people. I mean, there are some people that have no qualms with giving a fist bump still. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you could tell who is just like, look, you know what? I don't care if I go. Like, I'm not losing my humanity, you know? And it's caused so much of our culture to change. And I'm just wondering how fast it'll be before this is so normal. Like, everybody's wearing a mask, and the only thing you see is somebody's eyes. You know what I'm saying? And what my daughter will remember, this one right here, she's not in school yet. All she's gonna know is that when she goes to school, she puts on her mask. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not gonna be anything different. I don't know, it's just a mind-boggling thing for me to think, like, how much has changed. I mean, we grew up with the internet. You know what I'm saying? I remember when Instant Messenger came out. I mean, there's so many things that we were like, oh man, that was such a big change, and now Amazon and all this stuff, but this is such a huge change. I can't fathom where we're gonna be in the next couple years, and how I don't think education's gonna be the same. And I don't know, something that you said last time that kind of, it tripped me out, because you were like, you know, I was like, man, education is a business. Like, I didn't think about it, but it's like, I'm like, okay, so what happens when all the teachers want to teach for themselves? What happens when they're kind of like, you know, not freelancers, free agents, right? My friend, he's a Spanish interpreter, and he's getting paid by one school, and he's English ESL, I think it's what it's called, and he's getting paid by one school, and the other school is asking him to say, hey, can you come and volunteer? And he's like, no, like, my time is money, like, you know? And so it's just like they have these needs, and I'm wondering when the breaking point is going to be, when they're like, okay, we don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough people in classrooms. Like, what's going to be the breaking point? They're like, okay, we got to talk to our governors and say, we don't have to have these parameters in place, or these things have to change because it's hurting the bottom line. And I don't know, it's just a weird thought to think that.
It's kind of the first time in history that teachers can determine the value of their time.
Yes.
Because
I was just going to say that. I mean, COVID-19, one of the positives that could come out of COVID-19 is teachers getting paid their actual value if they're willing to embody or embrace an entrepreneurial mindset. If they say, we've been, you know, held in this pay structure where we get 1 or 2 percentage point bumps every year, and those 1 or 2 percentage point bumps ain't worth much when you start at a number so low on year one. If they say, let's change and revolutionize this educational system, and maybe they bring teaching to neighborhoods or teaching to houses, they could then become very extremely well-paid people. I mean, anywhere you want to go on this topic, anywhere you want to go on what you guys are seeing at home, you got people watching here. We love you guys. Give me some perspective. I'm out of your way.
Well, I think the one thing that I can't Anwar has the speaker here. If I hear myself, I freeze up. He's turning it up so we can hear you better. But I think one thing I've really come to appreciate is the importance of children getting together with one another. Because our children have really been in isolation since March. And so it's the sweetest, it's so Little House on the Prairie, like Anne of Green Gables, all my dreams are basically coming true in 2020. Anwar is in one room with his classroom with Samaria, and he looks like a teacher whenever I walk by, and he looks so professional. It's like very funny to me. But then across the hall is our little one in a nursery, and then right next to her, I'm with all the 4 and 5 year olds, because the moms stay with the 4 and 5 year olds to do this this kind of challenging curriculum and to keep them still. And I love that they're like crossing off all the rules, you know, like you cannot do this and not so in other words, everyone has masks inside. Everyone's doing their very best to social distance. There's hand sanitizer every 35 seconds. Everywhere you go, I'm worried about the effects of so much hand sanitizer, if anything. And, but just the, joy in seeing one another, but also watching my 4-year-olds, really rise to, oh, this is actually, me trying to get her interested in the timeline, the history of the world. It's a lot of memorization, the Assyrians and the patriarchs of Israel. We're memorizing all these kind of key words on a timeline. That's difficult to do at home. But when everyone in her classroom is leaning in and learning the songs together, she just is blossoming. And just to see I don't know, I've been a mom for a long time, but I've never really appreciated how important it was to them to have friends and to have people that they're connecting with, because I always just took it for granted. But to be able to do our very best to create a safe way in which they can have that community is crucial, I think.
Laura, you are,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this to you, Laura. You are radiating right now. I mean, you are like
And-
radiating like positivity. It's coming through the screen. I mean, this is, I think,
I really
the
love-
third interview we've done. I mean, you seem to be in a really good like headspace right now. Is that fair analysis?
No, I really love the pace of life.
I was just gonna say that.
Like, we had, Anwar and Samari went to their gym class, and Grandma, has always had, like, fine china, like, right? I mean, every single holiday, I have every set for every holiday, and, imported from England, and we, like, set the table, and we had poached eggs, and bacon, and fresh fruit, and fine bone china, and the little girls were like, and getting their shirt, and I'm just like, this is beautiful. You know, they're 2 and 4, and to be able to capture these photographs, I think the pace of our culture was making me sick,
Oh yeah,
like violently ill.
it was toxic.
I really do. Like, I said to Grandma, we've started to sell our clearance bundle, because we're trying to clean the bakery up, on Facebook Live. We did more sales sitting on Facebook Live for 45 minutes than we might do in an entire day standing at a demo in a store.
Or Saturday market, which I love the Saturday markets.
That's awesome.
And I said to Grandma yesterday, I said, we can sit in a chair and look at a camera and sell shortbread. She's like, no.
Absolutely. The way she put it was, actually, we could sit down and people might not know we got our pants on.
You can sell shortbread on the doctor.
So wait, Anwar, are you tipping us off? Are you in your boxers right there?
If you go on YouTube and search Zoom
I did not want to
fails,
say that publicly.
anyway, just when you're taking a little lunch break. I wanted to piggyback off of her though, because one thing that I've noticed also is that humanity has actually wanted a new pace. I think that some people are actually embracing it, and it's the craziest thing. We were walking the other day, and it's actually like the types that have already been outlandish, the types that have kind of been like out there. Like, everybody's got their friends named Jane and Simon that are always going to like some far out place, like they're going to Antarctica, they're going to Iceland. Like, where do you find the time to travel, and why do you spend all your time in like a little mobile bus or something like that? Like, oh, we just love it. Like, why don't you just get a house, pay a mortgage like the rest of us? Like, you're making us look bad. And so there's like people, like entrepreneurs, people, like, this is the time to shine. Like, and I'm just telling everybody else, like, hey, just embrace it. Like, don't try to go back to what it was, because I feel like everything that we kind of know and love is being shaken. And I think, at the very least, what we're noticing is that we actually have gone farther away from what was supposed to be important to us as a country, as a people group. And so that all these, I keep saying, all these different facets of life that we interact with culturally, I think they're changing for the better. I think when things turn for the better, though, they take a little time to heal. You know what I'm saying? Like right now in our country, you know what I'm saying? I think so many people are like, oh my gosh, the riots and all this stuff, all this is going on. And I'm like, well, I'm not really surprised that all this is happening. It sucks that it's happening, you know, but it's like, it's one of those things in our country that everybody knew about, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, or somewhere in between, like you're a Bernie fan, you know, or whoever. Like, everybody knows that this was a problem that has been plaguing us in our short span of a history. We've only been a country for not even 500 years, right? And so there's.
Well, I think what you're saying is it represents that just sense of, like, I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that as a culture, we have just all felt like we've been on such a hamster wheel. Like, this, just
Yep,
the pace to just get anything
it's
done.
killing people.
And coupled with the internet, which means you can get up in the night at 3 a.m. and answer 4 emails for work, you know?
Right.
And so it's hard to discipline yourself to stop. It's a breakneck impossible living at. And I think what you're saying is the rioting is almost just like a cultural scream in some
It's
ways.
one- yeah,
Like
it's- Right.
I just can't take everything that's just so not
And
natural.
I think there's not enough to numb us. There's not enough spaces to escape to where we're like, okay, we can just shut this off. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we are confronted with this and we're still enough, we're done with our work at 3:30 just about. Nobody's making, look, I'm calling myself out. I would make 5 trips to the coffee machine during my workday when I worked at a corporation. You know what I'm saying? Just because I just needed to get up. You know what I'm saying? So people are paying more attention to what's going on. Your eyes are open. You know what I'm saying? You're like, some people they're afraid for their lives. Some people are noticing that their life is more important than X, Y, and Z. Some people are experiencing life for the first time, experiencing their families for the first time. You know what I'm saying? So these things are much more important to you. And I think that's just one part of it. And I think humanity in general is understanding that we were made for something much more than what we were doing. And I think it was these routines of go to work, and I love you some Netflix and some Amazon, all that stuff. So let's Netflix and chill, and then maybe, you know, we might read a book, and then I'll see you again tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just was a rinse and repeat type thing. And I don't know, I think we were built for much more than that.
I love the little connection I just saw there with Grandma and your gorgeous little daughter. I mean, they just like smiled at each other. It was beautiful. I want you to throw this question to Grandma. And Laura,
Okay.
you might need to relay this to her. She has the benefit of experience that we do not have.
Yeah.
So a question for Grandma is maybe, what is your message to everybody watching that's struggling with this thing we call COVID? What do you give us a message of hope here, Grandma?
So, Grandma, what he said was, what's a word to encourage us, the younger generation, through this time, this time of COVID and just everything that's going on. You gotta speak loud.
Well, you just have to go. It's hard for me to explain that you can learn a lot from this COVID too. You can spend more time in your house with your parents, with your grandparents, and enjoy it. And I really don't know.
Did you hear that, Jerry?
I did. We heard that.
So, one thing that I forgot to say, and this goes right in line with what you were saying. You might know this book, Jerry. The guy's name, I think, is Covey, and it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the one thing he changed in his life is he made his priorities different. It wasn't to make a lot of money. It was to enjoy his family. And I think it was Stephen Covey or Jim Collins. I can't remember which one it was. But he took his hours down from 80 or something like that to like 48. It was something drastic. And he still was able to enjoy his life. He still did well in business. And I'm not sure if you heard, but Grandma was just saying, she spend more time at home. You know, like spend time with your loved ones. Like what's really important to you? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys are beautiful people.
Came with a one-way ticket yesterday.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
We're
welcome.
keeping her.
Welcome back to Charlottesville. We love having you here. Thank you for being here, Grandma. And the Allens, Laura and Anwar, you guys are beautiful, beautiful people. Guys, support this business, Allen Scottish Shortbread. Allen Scottish Shortbread. Follow them on Facebook. Go to their website. They are A+ people. Guys, I wish you the best. We will reach out soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jerry, we love you, man. We love you.
Say right back at you. Right back at you. Okay. Why don't we do this? Okay, we're about maybe 60 or 90 seconds away from playing Barbara Lundgren's perspective that she shared this morning. And she did it on the Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase. And at the bottom portion of the Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase, we played a great song by Bon Jovi. Unfortunately, Facebook does not like when you play songs by musicians, and they freeze or pause or take down your video. So what we did in between Barbara's show and our show is we cut the portion, we edited the portion of Barbara speaking. And now is the time for you to tag a friend, a family member, someone that you feel like maybe is in a rut or a little down in the dumps, someone that's struggling with COVID, sad, anxious, uncertain, frustrated, angry, someone who's saying, God, why are you doing this to us? And I think we all, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be really real. I feel those feelings every single day. So tag a friend now. You're going to want to hear this message. Whether you are a God-fearing person or not, there was, without a doubt, a higher power speaking through Barbara today. I felt it like, it was like palpable and tangible in this studio. I felt it. I was wearing it like a blanket. So you got someone, maybe it's you, maybe it's your wife, your husband, your sister, your brother, some friends that are feeling this. Tag them or text them, better yet, and say, you need to listen to what's about to happen on this program. Do it now. Because you're going to hear, and we've never done this on the I Love CVille show. Not to this extent of playing a large chunk of a show again. I think when you hear what she says, you're going to cry. I did. You're going to remember it. It's going to resonate with you. We do have to pay some bills. So we want to let folks know about this fantastic deal that we have with Ting through ilovecville.ting.com. You could save $288 on the best internet out there. I also want to give some love to an A-plus company, Interstate Pest and Service Companies. Interstate is a home's best friend, a 4-generation strong family business that is just like fantastic and genuine and honest. And I've seen it firsthand. 50 years plus in business. You don't do that unless you embody those qualities. So we're going to play this video for you. Let your friends know now through a text message or tagging them on the stream that they need to hear what Barbara Lundgren is about to say. Judah, do you have that ready to go? All right. If you can cue that up, sir, in 3, 2, 1. You know, we're at the back part of the show.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some good things coming up.
And we can go as long as we need.
Okay, well, I don't want to go all that long. I have one other good thing coming up. One of my couples is getting married on their date. They've invited me to their Zoom wedding.
Well,
We're going to do
wedding?
Yeah, yep. They've invited me to their Zoom wedding on the 26th. We will have their celebration next year. But yeah, that's I'm excited about that. That meant a lot to the fairy godmother that I was invited to their Zoom wedding.
I bet you get.
And then I got a call from one of my moms this morning that the twins are on the way. Mom is in Mississippi and the couple is here, so I might be helping out with the twins. That's one of our couples. So I'm going to try to help them out. Anyway, we just stay connected. It's really fun. Really fun to have other family. You connect us families.
You're not a wedding planner.
We become family. Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
We do. We create relationships. We do. So yeah, it's the consultant part in me, and yeah. Anyway. We have some changes coming, but good things. So today will be my last show for a while.
Yeah.
So I wanted to let people know that we won't be around on Thursday mornings for now. Jerry and I will be talking about, possibilities later, but I'm now facilitating virtual learning for my 2 grandsons, and I want to be around for my family wherever needed.
Family
right
first.
now. Family first. So that's 2 to 3 days a week, depending on the week.
You're doing 2 to
and-
3 days a week of virtual facilitation with your grandkids.
It depends on the week, yeah.
Man,
because,
you are amazing.
Yeah, well, they make it easy. They're 11 and 12 years old, and they're very responsible. So it's not horrible. I mean, but I'm there, and I'm making sure that they're focused and
They are lucky to have you.
And I make lunch and and then we run to football and then we run to piano and we just run. So, but it's a blessing to me. It's a blessing to me, and I'm working on my own business plans. So I need to take a break from my Jerry time.
Okay.
But
You're going to be missed.
I thank you. I thank you for having me do this, and I want to thank Keswick Vineyards again.
Absolutely.
For all that they've done, and for all they've done over the years with me. So I'm going to get choked up, but I worked with Cindy and Al for 2.5 years when they were first starting events, and they taught me a lot. Like we talked about last week, Cindy moving a ceremony in 15 minutes when the clouds clear. She taught me how to do that for one big thing, and we still do that when we do weddings with her. But they're just great people, and I just want to thank them for supporting us here. I want to thank my barbed wire team for being there. Iris and Lauren and Vicki joined us here, but there's one other unsung hero that's been supporting me, and that's Rona. Rona Huntley has been a great cheerleader in the background here lately, so I don't know if Rona's watching today, but she will watch. I think she's virtual learning right now. But everyone who watched the show weekly, my high school friends have been out there, and Bashir, oh my gosh, Bashir was just wonderful yesterday, and Ray Cadell, all of my buddies that have been watching every week, thanks for supporting us here. And every week I've talked about my mentors, not my mentors, but we've been bringing up mentorship, and I wanted to shout out some of mine.
Please.
Ed Vasilchik was my, I'm glad I brought the tissues. Ed Vasilchik was my manager at Morven. Morven is now owned by the university, but I worked at Morven Estate under John Kluge, and I worked for Ed Vasilchik, Curry Roberts, and Elton Oliver for 10 years. And Ed was my manager for 8 years, and he helped me to learn event planning, and he named my business. And Curry and Elton, Curry Roberts, who was once the state fair president or director, and is in Richmond, he connected me to the county fair and broadened my horizons there. And Elton Oliver is still at Morven, and he and his family have supported me. And I worked for him as the director there in the last years. Frank Keplinger was, he's not on Facebook much, but I hope he'll get to see the show. He worked with me at the county fair, as did many, many people. I can't name them all, but Frank was one of the guys who said we had a microburst come through. We had 5 years of rain at the fair. And on the last year that we had rain, we had a microburst come through, and it leveled most of the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds, back in that day, we built it in a week, we ran it for a week, and we took it down in a week. And it was a tent city, and that's what we built for 3 weeks. And a microburst came through on Thursday, and we would shut down on Sunday. And it leveled it. I knew people were dead. I mean, I just knew. I was giving up. I was at the end of my rope after 5 years of reign. And no one was severely hurt. There was one gal who went to the hospital with a concussion, and everyone else was safe. Wrap it up. We're done for this week. Frank said, nope. Everyone rallied, and we got open again for the weekend. And that just meant the world to me. He and so many people. That was when the fair hosted 30,000 at 30 to 32,000 people. And Frank was just a rock, and he taught me a lot. I'm going to shout out to Iris Luck, who has been not only a great friend and colleague, but just a great business support. She's just always there when I need her, always there. It might be a couple hours, but she's there within a couple hours to hold my hand and get me through anything personal or business. And she is just everything to me. And my family. I'm first going to talk about my mom and dad, and I know I'll lose it. They gave me my work ethic. And my dad was a salesman, and he taught me how to fry chicken. So those are my mentors. My family supports me, and we're all over the place, and we don't get together as often as we should, but those are the people who, and there are many, many more. We don't have time. I just want to share with you a little bit more about what COVID has done, because we have all been through a lot, and I just want to share with you where I am and have been. We've talked a little bit. March 16th is my birthday, and March 16th is when everything was shutting down. Years ago, 3:16 became more meaningful in that, you know the verse, John 3:16. That verse, that is John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believed in him would have everlasting life. I took that as God so loved Barbara, because that's my birthday. Well, I encourage everyone to put your name in that verse. And for God so loved Barbara, and for God so loved Jerry, and for God so loved Jonah. And on March 16th of this year, everything started, everything was okay. We thought it was okay, and it's been falling apart ever since. But we have found strength, and I found strength in that verse, and I found time. I found special time for my family, and I found special time that God gave me to find him. And I have been studying, and I have been reading, and I have been finding, oh gosh, on Sunday morning I could watch 3 different church services online. 3 different cultures, 3 different meanings, and just learn so much more about him. And God has promises that he's not going to break. God never breaks his promises. Are you familiar with Corrie ten Boom?
No.
Corrie ten Boom was first a Dutch Christian watchmaker. She and her family, Casper ten Boom and her sister, they helped the Jews, many Jews, escape from the Nazis during the Holocaust, and they housed them in their home. Writer. And anyone who knows me on Facebook knows that I put positive things on my Facebook. So many times I will quote her. One of her quotes is, "Let God's promises shine on your problems." And I have tried to hold on to those promises. The promises just in the last week came up in some of my readings, and we lose sight of God's promises. I read and learned that there are more than 4,700 promises in the Bible just from God. Now, there are other promises in the Bible, but just from God, there are 4,700. And He does not break those promises. So anyone who's hurting, anyone who is looking for answers, I just encourage you to take this extra time that you might have and look for those promises, look for those answers, read, study. There are resources everywhere. Jay Shetty is another who is, are you familiar with Jay Shetty?
No.
He's an inspirational speaker. He was a monk, and now he's just written a book. He has relationship guidance. He's on Instagram. I encourage everyone to look him up. He has business advice. There's something on Instagram every day. He goes live. I've been reading Max Lucado. I've been reading, and I hear a sermon every morning from Rick Warren. For ladies who like to hear ladies, there's Lisa Tykehurst, who's been through a lot, and she has made it her focus to help other ladies. But no matter what we're struggling with, and if we need help, I just ask you to seek that help and look for those resources. Judah, there's one film that I gave you, and I'll preface this with, in the news, we used to hear a lot about school shootings and church shootings and everything, and now we hear more about COVID and our civil unrest. But this film came to me yesterday about a church shooting, a recent church shooting, and it didn't hit the news. But I wanted to share it today, if you'd show that.
Do you have that video, Judah?
Mm-hmm.
This white van came towards me, did a U-turn, jumped the pavement, and broke in the two front doors of the church. He had gotten inside the narthex, put 10 gallons of gasoline on the floor, set it on fire, and came out. And I was face to face with him like this. And he jumped into his car and off he sped. I called 911, and thank God they rounded him up within 20 minutes.
I knew there would be a lot of police and a lot of it, but when I arrived then I found out that the FBI had got involved in the situation, so it was a crime scene.
I'm not trying to be funny, I didn't have any thoughts. I was just aware of what was happening in front of me, that we had been attacked, bombed. Nobody at all was hurt, thank God, nobody. My parishioners, for the most part, are mature people like myself. And so, oh my God, the church is on fire, and who could have done this? Evil never attacks evil, so the church is something very good. So I take the attack on the church as a sign that we're doing the right thing here. At the moment, we're cleaning up. We have some extraordinary artwork. Most of the Bible is on the Old and New Testament, somewhere or other is on the walls of the church. A lot of those got severely damaged, and so we're going to replace all the artwork. We had relics on display on the walls, and ironically, it was one of the few things that didn't burn. The relics are still here of St. Therese and Blessed Elizabeth of the Trinity and John of the Cross.
Well, the good Lord always works miracles. Certain things in life show us again that we're not in charge. The Lord is in charge, and these are the moments where we have to realize there's a greater power than we are.
As lovely as this church is, it's a building. It can be replaced.
The whole message of the gospel is redemption, forgiveness. If we don't have forgiveness in our hearts, then what are we filling our hearts with today? And it's very important, if we're like, then we must be forgiving.
If you're afraid of the attack, I don't know, our history is a bit different from other people. We kind of say Christ has died, and then Christ living between is risen and will come again.
At the moment, all of us are apprehensive about many things. But I think, it's like the disciples in the boat in the middle of a storm. They wake Jesus up and concerned about our safety. What shall we do? And Jesus' response is, don't you have faith?
I'd like you to say the Fatima Prayer, the one that says, "O my Jesus, forgive us in the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, especially those in most need of thy mercy." Because God wants everybody to be saved.
Do we hear God? Are we listening? And the question today is, where is the good news? Is in the God news is here, then we are lost.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, so, those are some things that we don't hear about in the news anymore. We're just overshadowed. Other resources, there's a channel that we probably skip over a lot on TV, that's TBN. But like any other channel, you might find some resources there. It's easy, it's free. You can pick and choose your programming just like TV. They're going to try to sell you something just like TV, And there are lots of speakers there that I don't care for, so I skip over. But there are some that have really impacted me right now. Their everyday struggles. Just love your loved ones like you've never had before, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I encourage people to reach out to a friend. We've been in this for so many months, and you think the people are okay, and they might not be okay. Reach out to a neighbor you don't know. The road's just not getting easier for some people. And you asked Bashir yesterday about how did he make his marriage so tight? How did he make his marriage work? And what did he say? What was his answer?
Get away with that answer.
Yeah. But we can't lose sight and take loved ones for granted. You court your spouse. You need to still keep courting. Have your date nights. Take them flowers. Take them chocolates. Whatever they like. But my parents were married for 68 years. And I would have people call me and say, I just saw your mom and dad on the sidewalk, and they were holding hands. And they were in their 70s, As long as they could walk together, they were holding hands. And until Mom got into a wheelchair. And they passed away 11 weeks of each other. It was like Mom went and Dad said, "Woman, you're coming with me." And those are our goals. We have goals. We have lots of goals. We have business goals. But those are our goals. But fair and honest communication with your loved ones, listening intently. And I'm not a great example, okay? I'm not a great marriage example, but I've seen and I've experienced what works. And if you're disillusioned in a relationship, if you're disillusioned in your job or with your kids or whatever, just, try to listen, try to feel what they're feeling. And disillusioned in marriage, the greatest thing I've ever heard is the grass may look greener on the other side, but the grass is greener where you water it. And that's in any relationship and your job, everywhere. It's where you put your effort. Marie Curie also said, "Understand more, fear less." And I try to take that with me as well. But make your plans, book the flight, make the trip. It might be a road trip this year, but and don't blink. We hit on that last week. My little boy is going to be 33 on Saturday. Your little boy is
2.5.
2.5. But don't blink. they grow up so fast, and call you mom. So thank you, Jerry, for doing this. And I don't know if you want to go into comments today.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
I do. Beth Hyder, best wishes to you, Barbara. Your grandkids are lucky to have you, facilitating their learning. You will be missed. Vicky from Latois, you are such a blessing to me and this community. Thank you for who you are. Olivia Branch, what a blessing you are to all of us. Heather Rittner, God is good, Barb. You got this. He's got the rest.
God's got this.
Iris Luck, this is amazing, Barbara Lundgren. Thank you, my sweet friend. I love you bunches. There's more. You are loved here, everywhere. You're an amazing person.
Thank you, Jerry. And you are as well. Thank you for keeping our community together this platform.
I've
It's
enjoyed
great.
getting to know you and this industry. And I know that you guys have been hit so hard, and you've shared, personal details of how it's impacted your business, which we will not share here. But I believe through the vulnerability and you just took us into your soul and your heart. And if you're willing to do that in front of a lot of people, there's no doubt that you would go to the wall for your brides and their families. And I know that's why you're successful. And I know when we get on the other side of this, it's going to be an explosion for you. And you're going to look back on 2020 and be like, this is the year that tested our faith and tested our soul and created so much anxiety for all of us. But we got through it, and if we can get through 2020, we can get through anything.
Absolutely. Amen. Just keep looking up.
Yeah.
Just keep looking up. Look for the right things. Look in the right directions.
We're at the back part of the show.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some good things.
Barbara Lundgren. Proud to call her a friend. She's awesome. I really love the people in our community. They're awesome too. And I don't know about you guys, but I needed that. Share it with somebody else. If you think they need it too, we'll take that portion of what just Barbara said and put it all over social media. And I don't want you to think, this is wonky or anything like that. But when she was talking, man, I was feeling something in this room. And Barbara, on her show, often takes the spotlight away from herself and puts it on others because that's just who she is. And today, we saw the spotlight on her and what she was feeling and what she was going through. She's just being real. And I think her mission with her message was to explain to everyone, you're not alone, and you might be feeling a lot of these feelings that are frustration and anger and asking why and hurt, depression, anxiety. I got friends, I got family that hasn't left the house since March. Think about that. We're going to get through it all, and we'll look back on 2020 as a year that made everybody a little bit stronger. Probably so going through a war, war times. Can you imagine what it was like with World War II or World War I? Can you imagine the Great Depression, the Revolutionary War? Maybe we have to go through these really tough and challenging and hard times to greatly appreciate the good ones. And maybe what's happening here is, like Anwar and Laura said, we just got caught in this rat race, all of us, this like hamster wheel of trying to keep up with the Joneses or get shiny, pretty things and shiny, pretty stuff to drive and check each day to see what's happening in stocks or your bank account or whatever it may be. And instead, perhaps what we should be doing is getting home earlier to see your kid walk for the first time, as opposed to sitting at your desk trying to send out the next contract or send the next email or get ahead the next day because your mindset is what happens here provides for your family. Instead, maybe it should be providing for your family is seeing those steps, the first ones, and catching him before he falls. I'm Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille show.